atmospheric radiation. And so far, so starting with the introduction, we have discussed about the fundamental laws of radiation, all right? And in that, we discussed the basic electromagnetic spectrum, all right? And especially, I'm reviewing this for the new PhD students, okay? So we have covered about the electromagnetic spectrum, the basic things, the fundamental things about the isotropic radiation and the different geometries through which when a beam of radiation is incident upon a surface, then we've talked about what is the solid angle, what is the zenith angle, okay. Those things we have discussed in the very beginning of this atmospheric radiation part, okay. And we have also talked about the emissive power, okay, emissivity, black body radiation. We have discussed already Planck's radiation law. We have discussed already. We have discussed about the Wien's displacement law, Stephen's Boltzmann's law. Okay. Uh, then we have discussed about the physics of the scattering, absorption, emission. Okay. And in that context, we discuss about the relay scattering, the Maya scattering, etc. We discuss about the absorption line. Okay, we talked about what is the atmospheric window. Okay, how for certain wavelength, for certain gases, the atmospheric radiation is transparent or opaque to the outgoing long wave radiation. And that is what we exploit in developing the sensors for satellites to measure these gases. So we have discussed in that context the absorption lines, and then after that we talked about the radiative transfer processes. Okay, radiative transfer processes. In the same context, we also talked about the what is Doppler broadening. Okay, what is pressure broadening or Lorentz broadening, Lorentz line, etc. Those things we have already discussed. Okay, so you will have to study those things by yourself, Swagata, Lokesh, and Syam. All right. And then in the radiative transfer process also, we have talked about the simple radiative transfer process for the sound wave radiation, because the way radiation transfers through different layers of the atmosphere, okay, that will depend upon the wavelength. Okay, it is different for the short wave and it is different for the long wave radiation. Okay, the short wave radiation is easily able to pass through the atmospheric layer, although part of it also gets scattered or reflected, also absorbed. But for the case of long wave, it is much more complex, much more complicated. Okay, and as you know, the atmosphere contains aerosols, clouds, gases in different layers. Right? So as the radiation is passing through those layers, each of those substances will interact with the radiation according to their own character, nature, right? And depending upon the substance present in the layer of the atmosphere, okay, some part of it will get scattered, and that will also depend upon what is the number concentration of those particles, right? What is the number concentration of those particles? What is the size of those particles? All those things will matter, right? For example, when we are talking about the atmosphere, okay, so let us say this is the Earth, okay, and these are the different layers of the atmosphere, okay. Is this screen visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So suppose if some layer of the atmosphere has some clouds, okay, and clouds, inside the clouds we have got cloud hydrometeors present, okay. That means they can be liquid, they can be solid, frozen substances, right? Ice, snow, etc., etc. And each of them will have their own size and shape. Okay, the number concentration also will be different. So according to the size, shape, number concentration, the radiation. Okay, one is the short wave, of course. One is the short wave. Okay, uh, short wave, and other is the long wave. Okay, long wave. After reaching the surface, the Earth also will absorb part of it, and then part of it will get reflected, part of it will be re-emitted. Okay. Now, in between each layers of the atmosphere, as the radiation passes through, okay, both short wave and long wave, so many types of aerosols can also be present. Okay, dust particles can also be present. Aerosols. Okay, these are the clouds. We have also the aerosols. Okay, and there can be different types of aerosols, right? Hygroscopic, non-hygroscopic, dust particles, gases, etc., etc. Okay, there can be also gases. So each of them will absorb and re-emit, okay, differently. So depending upon the wavelength, depending on the number concentration, depending upon the size and shape of the particles, right? And also after absorption, it will be re-emitted. Radiation will be re-emitted. Okay. So for long wave radiation, the radiative transfer processes are different than the short wave radiation. Okay. So when we talk about the impact or effects of this radiation on the Earth's atmosphere, that means, suppose if you want to know that what is the temperature in each layer of the atmosphere, let's say this is layer 1 where the temperature is T1. Okay, this is layer 2 where the temperature is T2. This is layer 3, temperature is T3. Layer 4, temperature is T4, right? So when we want to compute, because all these things have been computed in the model, when we're talking about the atmospheric models now, which are global and three-dimensional, right? Atmospheric models can be regional also, of course. But when we talk about the atmospheric models, besides the dynamics part of the model, okay, which is basically governed by the theories of hydrodynamics, right? Aerodynamics, and now the three new students now. That part we will be studying in the atmospheric dynamics part, which is being taught by Jayanti madam. Okay. So besides the atmospheric dynamics or the laws of hydrodynamics or fluid dynamics, we also have to take into account all the physical processes, one of which is radiation. Radiation is just one of the physical processes, right? Of course, the main source of energy, okay, in the atmosphere or our entire Earth atmosphere system, radiation. We also, you will study later on, maybe in the next semester also, in detail, convection. Okay, is another heat transfer process. Okay, or another physical process. Of course, the cloud microphysics. Cloud microphysics. Okay, you'll be talking about the atmospheric planetary boundary layer. Okay, PBL, we indicate by PBL. That is planetary boundary layer. Okay, and close to the Earth's surface. Okay, close to the Earth's surface, we will be studying more in detail in boundary layer meteorology classes, which partly will be taught in the next semester, boundary layer meteorology. Okay. So both the surface and also at the surface, we have got the land surface processes. Land surface processes. Okay. And in this land surface processes, we talk about so many things like the lands can have so many things, like it can have ocean. I mean, part of the earth surface will have ocean, sea, okay, river, lakes, okay, and that will again go in the air-sea interaction part. I think Swagata will be studying those things in detail in our PhD course, air-sea interaction. We have also different types of trees, okay, on the land surface processes, trees. This is tree, okay. We have also got urban areas like buildings, right? Buildings on the earth surface. We have got crops, vegetation, right? So all these things which are present on the land, whether they are ocean, river, lake, sea, trees, vegetation, buildings, etc., etc., they all modulate the transfer of heat between the land and the atmosphere. Also, under the ground, you have got the groundwater hydrology. Like when the rainfall occurs, then depending upon the soil moisture, how much is the soil moisture, right? Depending on the soil moisture, the rainfall initially will get absorbed by the ground, by the surface, right? But if the surface becomes saturated by the moisture, then there will be runoff, right? Runoff. This is part of the hydrology, hydrometeorology, groundwater hydrology. Part of it will be infiltration, right? We call it infiltration. Right. So all these things will have to be accounted as part of the land surface processes, right? Land surface processes. And as you will study later on in the next semesters, etc., when we are trying to include or incorporate the land surface processes in the model, then we will have to consider the different layers under the ground. Suppose this is the earth surface. Then under the earth surface or under the ground, also we have to consider the layers of the earth. Okay. Depending upon, again, how complex land surface model you are trying to incorporate, land surface model. Okay. So depending upon how complex land surface, which land surface model scheme you are going to utilize in your model, accordingly there will be complexity, different complexity will be there. Like you can have layer 1, you can have layer 2 under the ground, layer 3, and so on. Okay. So in each layer you will have soil temperature, okay, soil moisture, etc. Okay, ground heat fluxes, sensible heat fluxes, and so on. Okay, so these things are accounted in the land surface model part of it, and which includes also the vegetation, the trees, okay, the lakes, etc. Okay, so these are part of the land surface processes, and that is a separate, subject in itself, land surface processes. Okay, mostly also studied by the water resources engineers or civil engineers also are interested in studying the land surface processes. Okay, so presently we are talking about the radiative transfer processes. Okay, radiative transfer processes, uh, simple radiative transfer process in which not much is blocked or stopped by the intervening layers of the atmosphere, like for the short wave. And also the impact of the presence of clouds, aerosols, gases, etc., in different layers of the atmosphere, right? Which becomes important, especially for the long wave, right? Some of it, like part of the radiation will be absorbed also in different layers, but depends upon again which wavelength, right? Which aerosol. Some of them will be negligibly absorbed, or some of them, when the absorption occurs, after that it re-emits also, right? Absorption and re-emission. Okay, so for some wavelength, the re-emission is almost negligible, almost negligible. And in that case, we have already discussed that the Beer's law of radiation is valid, right? We have discussed about that. But when the re-emission is not negligible, then we have to consider a more complex law, that is Schwarzschild's equation, right? Schwarzschild's equation, which we had discussed earlier in the previous lectures. Okay, Schwarzschild's equation. And in that, we discussed that for the Schwarzschild's equation, this is the one. Like, this is the Beer's law. Okay, this is the Beer's law. Is the screen visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, so this is the Beer's law, and it states that how much will be the attenuation of radiation, right? What will be the change in the radiation? di lambda, okay, where I lambda is the incident radiation at wavelength lambda, okay. So it tells us that how much will be the attenuation, how much of the radiation will be absorbed, okay, when it passes through a atmospheric layer, and that depends on all these things, right? It depends on all these factors. That is k lambda, which is the absorption coefficient. I lambda is the initial intensity of the radiation. Rho, the density of that layer. Okay, shake theta. Theta is the zenith angle, and Bz is the depth of the layer. So this is the Beer's law. Okay, also called the Lambert's law. Okay, also called the Bugos law. Right, this is the Bugos law, and this is generally applicable when the re-emission is very small, when the re-emission is very insignificant. Okay, but when the re-emission is not insignificant, that is when it is significant, then in that case, the equations are governed by the so-called Schwarzschild's equation. This is the Schwarzschild's equation. Okay, this is Schwarzschild's equation. In which case, the change in intensity of the radiation. Okay, change in intensity of the radiation is a function of the Planck's blackbody emission, okay, F lambda T, and the incident radiation I lambda. Okay. So this is the Schwarzschild equation when the re-emission is significant, right? And we discussed earlier, all these things we have already covered. You just review. I'm just reviewing the past things now for the new PhD students because for their continuity and understanding, I'm just repeating all these things, right? So we talked about in this context that there are three very important parameters that we have to use for the radiative transfer processes, and those three important parameters. Can somebody say what are those from the first year? We have already studied. First year students. Those three parameters are what? Barsa, Trishna, Deepak. Do you remember? Are you there? Are you all there or you have lost connection? Nobody is replying to me. Am I audible and visible to all of you?
So yes, sir. We are there, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what are those three basic important parameters? Does anyone remember? We have discussed that in the previous class. One is the volume extinction coefficient. Volume extinction coefficient. We have already discussed that, right? And that depends upon the number of particles per unit volume in that layer. Okay. The cross-sectional area cross-section of the particles or aerosols and the scattering or absorption coefficient, right? Volume extinction coefficient. That's number one. Number two, we already studied and discussed, there is a single scattering albedo. Single scattering albedo. Okay, and this is defined by the ratio of the scattering coefficient to the sum of the scattering coefficient. Right? The single scattering albedo is the ratio of scattering coefficient divided by the total scattering to absorption and scattering. This is a single scattering albedo and is a function of the lambda wavelength. Right? And the third important parameter that we had discussed earlier was the asymmetry factor or asymmetry parameter. Okay, and this is given by this expression: asymmetry factor G lambda is equal to half of integration from -1 to +1 P cos theta prime D cos theta prime. Right? And we had discussed what is the difference between theta and theta prime. Do you remember that? The first year students? Do you remember the difference between theta and theta prime? Yes or no? Since you are forgetting the past or not able to recall.
Theta is zenith angle.
Yeah, theta is the zenith angle, right? And what is theta prime?
Theta angle and
Scattering.
Voice is breaking, yeah. When the radiation is scattered from then the angle at which the scattered radiation passes, that angle is the theta prime, whereas theta is the zenith angle at which the beam of radiation is incident upon a surface. You know all those differences. So these three parameters, symmetry factor, the single scattering albedo, and the volume extinction coefficient, are very important when we are computing the radiative transfer from different layers of the atmosphere. And the values of these parameters generally, very difficult, cumbersome to compute for each particle separately, because many times it is kind of approximated to a average value, mean value. Like the single scattering albedo is supposed to be 1 for non-absorbing particles. It's supposed to be less than 0.5 for strongly absorbing particles. And similarly, the other things also. Even the asymmetry factors, generally they are estimated either in the lab or theoretically, and we have discussed that earlier, that the asymmetry factor is approximately 0.5 for the aerosols, approximately 0.8 for the ice clouds, and is equal to approximately 0.85 for the cloud droplets. Right? So these are the things. So Agatha, did you study these things in your MSc?
No,
Are you
sir,
able to
I
hear
did
me? Are you there?
see the optical parameters like this.
Yeah, you studied those things, right? The optical depth, the optical thickness, etc. Right? So what about Sam in geoinformatics? Do you have to study these things? Sam Sundar?
No, sir. I studied about radiance reflectance, such kind of things.
Okay, those things are also important. They are all part of the entire radiation spectrum, radiation parameterization.
Yes, sir.
Later on, when you study, actually, the satellite meteorology is another subject which is taught in the next semester. So in that, you will study the details. And what we measure from satellite is basically the radiance. Okay, and that's what we assimilate in the model. Okay, we assimilate in the model the radiance directly nowadays, rather than assimilating the retrieved parameters. Like when you say this is the temperature profile of the atmosphere observed by the satellites, or this is the humidity profile of the atmosphere measured by satellite, those humidity, temperature, etc. They are retrieved parameters. Okay, they are retrieved parameters based on certain algorithms. What satellite measures directly is the radiance. And therefore, when we try to simulate the radiance directly in the model, then we try to minimize the error when our errors are minimized. Okay, because that is a direct observable quantity, whereas retrieved parameters are always having some error. Okay, retrieval error. So, what about Lokesh? Are you Lokesh? Are you there?
Sir, I'm here.
Yes, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so what about you? Have you ever studied any of these things?
No, sir. I hadn't studied this. I just studied the absorption and reflectance of Earth's surface. Not much, this much detail. I know the Beard-Lambert law, but I hadn't tried with this.
Okay, so you will have to study those things, right? You'll have to
Yes,
study
sir.
those things. So, going back to our lecture. So, actually, these are just preface of the background I'm discussing for the last half an hour. All these background just for the sake of our new students. Okay, this is already covered. Okay, we already covered earlier. I'll squeeze some. And we were discussing in the last class. We were discussing about the plane parallel approximation. Okay, we were discussing about the plane parallel approximation in the previous class for the first year students. Okay, and in that we discussed that many conceptual things we have discussed in that initially, like suppose, and these things are just again a review. Like, what is the solid angle, right? This is the solid angle. Suppose the radiation beam is incident on this surface of area, so let us say dA, okay, and this is the zenith angle theta, and this is the solid angle. This is the solid angle d omega divided by d omega, which is equal to DAN divided by r square. Okay, where r is the radius. And when the radiation is passing through a layer of the atmosphere, then the path through which, or the length through which the incident beam is passing in the layer of the atmosphere. Let us say this is the atmospheric layer. This is the atmospheric layer. Okay. Then this beam of radiation, or this ray of radiation, has passed through this much of distance equal to ds, let us say ds. Okay, so this is the path to which the radiation has traveled. Whereas this is the depth of the layer. This is the depth of the layer, dz. Okay, this is the incident angle, or the zenith angle, you can say. Okay, so zenith angle and the solid angle. This is the solid angle, d omega, solid angle. Okay, this is theta is the zenith angle and d omega is the solid angle. Okay, so the change in the intensity of the radiation that we have already studied as per the Beer's law is equal to I lambda, B lambda, and beta ds. Okay, that we have already studied. And we're talking about this now, plane parallel approximation. Plane parallel approximation, right? Let's assume that these are the different layers of the atmosphere, slices atmosphere. And sometimes we also use the optical thickness, right, as the vertical coordinate when we are trying to study the atmospheric radiative transfer processes. We also consider the optical thickness as the vertical coordinate rather than the geometrical thickness. And we have studied now in the previous classes the optical thickness denoted generally by tau. This is tau, optical thickness. That optical thickness depends on, again, the density of the layer of the atmosphere. It depends on the number concentration. It depends on the absorptivity factor, or the coefficient of scattering, coefficient of absorption, etc., and the thickness of the layer, or the path through which the radiation has traveled, right? Optical thickness, right? So let's consider these different layers, okay, or slices through the atmosphere. Okay, so while computing the radiative transfer processes, when the radiation is coming towards us, or inward radiation, when the radiation is coming towards us, then the, well, mu is a different thing. Mu is cos theta. Mu is cos theta. Theta is the zenith angle. So mu is less than 0 for inward ray, and mu is greater than 0 for the outward ray, directed streams of radiation. Okay, outward directed streams of radiation. So this is going outside, say, it's going outside. So mu is greater than 0. Okay, mu is greater than 0. In other case, when it is coming towards us, coming inside, then mu is supposed to be less than, we consider mu as less than 0. That is the convention. Okay, that is the convention. So this diagram is illustrating the incoming and the outgoing radiation through different slices, different layers of the atmosphere. Okay, I here is the incident beam. Okay, mu is the cos theta, which is also called the diffusivity factor. Mu is the cos theta, is also called the diffusivity factor, and tau is the optical thickness or optical depth. Okay. So okay, so in the plane parallel approximation that we're discussing right now, many atmospheric radiative transfer calculation can be simplified through use of plane parallel approximation, in which the temperature and the densities of constituents are assumed to be functions of height or pressure only. Okay. With this simplification, the flux density passing through a given atmospheric level is given by F nu. These arrows are indicating upward or downward flux. Okay, upward or downward flux. For example, suppose we have got a layer of the atmosphere. Okay, let's say atmospheric layer. Then when the short wave radiation passes through this without being attenuated. When we say without being attenuated, that means it is neither reflected, nor scattered, nor absorbed, right? Without being attenuated, it will reach the Earth's surface. But if attenuation takes place in this atmospheric layer, let us say which is containing your cloud, which is containing your aerosols, etc., then after the radiation is absorbed, or especially the re-emission takes place because of the absorption, not because of the reflection or scattering, because the scattering and reflection will lead to cooling, right? Whereas absorption will lead to warming. So after the radiation is absorbed, it re-emits. Okay, so let us say from this layer, it will emit both in the upward direction. Let us say this is layer number 1. It will emit or re-emit in upward direction F1 as well as in the downward direction. It will emit both upward and downward. Right? Similarly, if there is another layer above this, there is another layer above this, then for this layer also, will absorb. Okay, let's say this is layer 2. This will also absorb, and after absorption, this will also re-emit. So from this layer, the re-emission is a flux of radiation F2, both upward as well as downward F2. Okay. So these arrows in the that equation that you saw, its arrows, upward and downward fluxes, indicate the upward and downward fluxes, and tau nu is the optical thickness as a function of the frequency. Nu is the frequency of radiation. Okay, is equal to the integral over 2 pi. That means throughout the globe, you are integrating, of the incident radiation I nu, both in upward and downward direction, which is a function of tau nu cos theta. Tau nu is the optical thickness as a function of the frequency cos theta times cos theta d omega, where d omega, as we have seen earlier, is the solid angle. This is the zenith angle. This is the solid angle. Okay, this is the flux. So the flux density of the radiation is given by the integral over all directions of the earth. Okay, we are integrating in all azimuthal direction of the earth surface. In other words, when we are computing the radiation, okay, suppose if this is your earth surface, we are integrating in 2 pi along the entire surface of the earth. 2 pi. Okay. This is pi by 2, this is pi, and this is 2 pi. That you know. Okay. So 2 pi, integration over 2 pi. Where tau nu is the normal optical depth. Tau nu is used as a vertical coordinate also, as I mentioned earlier. And the arrows, upward and downward arrows, depict both upward and downward fluxes. Nu is the wave number. Okay. The tau, the optical thickness or optical depth, again, is an integral from 0 to infinity. That means for the entire layer of the atmosphere. Integral of the k lambda rho r dz that you have seen earlier. Right? This is the definition of the optical thickness. This is the definition of the optical thickness. Okay. Integral over the entire depth of the atmosphere, or whatever you are saying, dz, layer by layer, k lambda rho dz. Okay. Integrating over the azimuth angle is in all direction and denoting cos theta by mu, we obtain F nu, the flux density, which is a function of tau nu, is equal to 2 pi times 0 to 1 I nu upward and downward, which is a function of tau nu, mu d mu, where mu is the cos theta, cos of the zenith angle, which is also called the diffusivity factor. It is also called the diffusivity factor. This is the general equation of radiative transfer in the plane parallel atmosphere with multiple scattering. That means so many types of aerosols, and each aerosol is absorbing, scattering, and so on, re-emitting, etc. Okay, things we have discussed just for illustration. So the last equation, the flux density, which we have just seen, may be broken down into 3 components. Okay, may be broken down into 3 components. One is the upward emission from the earth surface that reaches level without being absorbed. This diagram we have already discussed. So the equation can be broken down into 3 components. One is the upward emission from the earth surface that reaches level without being absorbed. Second is the upward emission from the underlying atmospheric layer. And third is the downward emission from the overlying layer. In other words, this one. One is the upward emission. Even at the earth surface, the radiation will be absorbed, right? Radiation will be absorbed at the earth surface, and after that it will be re-emitted from the earth surface. Let's say Fe is re-emitted by the earth in the long wave. This will be in the long wave. All the terrestrial radiation are in the long wave, right? Or the terrestrial radiation in the long wave, whereas the incoming solar radiation in the short wave. Okay. So for each layer, there will be a flux of radiation coming beneath that layer. For the lowest layer, it is from the ground. For these layers, it is, say for example, for this layer, the one which is coming from the ground, Fe. And then this layer itself has absorbed and re-emitted, which is F1 in both directions, upward and downward direction. Then again, this layer above that also has absorbed and re-emitted, both in upward and downward direction. So, say for example, for this layer, you have got Fe, which is inward, okay, F1, which is outward, both in this direction as well as in this direction. And then plus also the one which is coming from the layer above, F2, right? So these are the three components, three parts of the radiation for each experienced by each layer, okay? The upward emission from the Earth surface that reaches level without being absorbed, the upward emission from the underlying atmospheric layer, and downward emission from the overlying layer, okay? Now using the Bayer's law, the intensity transmissivity, okay, transmissivity can be written as TVF, the flux transmissivity is equal to 2 times integral from 0 to 1 e to the power minus tau nu divided by mu du mu. And this is replaced by the flux transmissivity. That means this is the definition of the flux transmissivity. Okay, this is the definition of the flux transmissivity, where T nu F is approximately equal to e to the power minus tau nu divided by mu bar. Tau nu divided by mu bar, where 1 over mu bar is approximately or exactly equal to sec 53 is equal to 1.66 is the effective zenith angle. It is referred to as the diffusivity factor. Okay, this 1 by mu bar is also referred to as the diffusivity factor for the radiation. Okay, the net difference between the incoming and the outgoing radiation, as shown in the diagram, will change the temperature of the layer. Okay, what will be the temperature of a layer will depend upon what is the net radiation. Now we are talking about the vertical profiles of radiative heating rate, vertical profiles of the radiative heating rates. Okay, so that vertical profile of the radiative heating rate will depend on how much flux radiation is entering this layer from below as well as from the above. Suppose this is the layer, the top of the layer, this is the bottom of the layer, this is the thickness of the layer, dz. Okay, so some part the radiation flux will enter into this layer from below, some part of the radiation flux will enter in that layer from above. Okay, also this will emit downward as well as upward. Okay, so these are the fluxes. Okay, these are the fluxes. So the net heating rate because of the radiation or net radiative heating rate of this layer of the atmosphere will depend upon how much net flux has gone out and how much has come in, right? And that will determine the temperature of the layer. And similarly, we have to do this calculation layer by layer for the entire atmosphere. Okay, we have to do this calculation layer by layer for the entire depth of the atmosphere. Okay, so the net difference between the incoming and the outgoing radiation, as shown in this diagram, will change the temperature of the layer. Okay, the net radiative flux is responsible for heating or cooling dq, which can be expressed as dq equal to d of downward minus upward in watts per meter square. This is the unit, watts per meter square, right? So the net heating or cooling dq is equal to the difference between the upward and downward flux, right? So if the absorption of dq amount of net radiative flux changes the temperature of the layer of thickness dz by dt, then the change in heat content of that layer is given by rho Cp dt by dt, change in temperature with time. Okay, this capital T is the temperature, small t is the time. Right? So the rate of change of temperature with time in that layer dz, okay, dz, rate of change of temperature with time in this layer is equal to dq, where dq is the net flux, or we can write also that rho Cp dt by dt from this equation to d by dz. Okay, take the dz this side. The net flux, upward minus downward. Okay. The short wave radiation absorbed at the Earth's surface can be written as 1 minus alpha times S naught pi RE square. Okay, this is the short wave radiation absorbed at the Earth's surface, where alpha is the albedo, right? You know the albedo, isn't it? You have studied about the albedo. Yes or no? Everybody is silent. Yeah. So alpha is the albedo. S naught is the solar constant, right? Solar constant. That also you have studied earlier. Have you studied the solar constant? Yes or no? Everybody is silent. You have not studied solar constant so far? Solar constant. Generally, we talk about the radiation which is incident at the top of the atmosphere, because once it penetrates through the atmosphere and reaches the ground, it will get attenuated, right? So the original intensity of the radiation received at the surface, at the top of the Earth's atmosphere. Okay. In some sense, you can say that is a solar constant pi RE square, where R is the effective radius. Okay. So long wave radiation emitted by the Earth's surface. This is the absorbed radiation at the Earth's surface, and this is the emitted radiation at the Earth's surface. 4 pi R square, that is the area of the sphere. You know the area of the sphere? कितना होता है? पता है ना? What is the area of the sphere? 4 pi R square, isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
People are all silent. Yeah. This is the area of the sphere, 4 pi R square, times sigma T to the power 4. And you remember what is this law? Which law is this? Radiation law? Yeah, exactly. This is Stephen's law, right? Proportional to the fourth power of the temperature, and Tg indicates the temperature of the ground, right? And this is the Stephen's constant, sigma, right? So this is the radiation absorbed, emitted by the Earth's surface, and this is the radiation absorbed by the Earth's surface. Okay. Alpha is albedo, S0 is solar constant, that is the radiation flux reaching at the top of the atmosphere. Okay. So the net heating of the surface will depend on three things. One is the incident radiation absorbed at the surface, and this is the case when albedo alpha is 0, and for this case the surface temperature Tg is 279 Kelvin. The second is the incident radiation partly absorbed at the surface, for which alpha is 0.3, and third is the greenhouse effect, and this is more complex. Greenhouse effect will depend upon the presence of the gases, different greenhouse gases in the intervening layer. So this is the illustration of the different layers of the atmosphere. Okay. And we have been discussing about this earlier also today, that when the short wave radiation, this yellow, can you see this yellow arrows? Are you able to see this yellow arrow?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So this is the incoming short wave radiation. The yellow arrows are indicating the incoming short wave radiation passing through different layers of the atmosphere. Okay, these temperatures are, say, T1 for this layer, T2 for this layer, T3 for this layer, and this is the surface of the Earth, right? And as we discussed earlier, each layer will emit the radiation after absorption, both in upward direction and downward direction, right? So this is for the layer, say, 1. And in this layer 1, the radiation emitted from the layer below this layer, say this is layer 2, so this will be flux of radiation from the layer 2, both upward direction as well as the downward direction, 2f, right? Coming from the second layer. This 2 is indicating it is coming from the second layer. Is coming from the second layer. This 3 is indicating this is coming from the third layer. So this is third layer. So this is coming from the third layer. Okay, coming from the third layer, right? And so on. So this is, let us say, surface of the Earth. This is the top of the atmosphere. Okay, and these are all the red arrows are indicating the emitted radiation. Okay, they are indicating the emitted radiation from different layers of the atmosphere, whereas yellow arrows are indicating the incoming solar radiation. Okay, so these are the three things on which the net heating will depend. Heating for each layer of the atmosphere as well as heating for the surface also, right? So it is assumed here that atmosphere is transparent to solar radiation, that means short-wave radiation, but opaque or partly transparent to the long-wave radiation, that is infrared radiation. And the net heating is depicted in this figure. That depends on all these fluxes, both upward and downward fluxes from the layer above and layer below, each layer. Okay. So I think today we'll stop. We're almost 2 o'clock now. We started a bit late. So we have completed the complex radiative transfer process also. So far we have discussed about simple radiative transfer and the complex radiative transfer involving Beer's law and Schwarzschild's equation. Okay, and also the net heating or cooling because of the radiative fluxes in different layers of the atmosphere. Now in the next class, we shall talk about the cloud radiation interaction. Okay, we shall talk about the cloud radiation interaction. Is that okay? We have to stop here. We shall stop here for today. Right. So I see that about 11 students are here only. So any question for now, till now? For this class, any question? Yes or no?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No question. Okay. So then we stop sharing the screen. I stop sharing the screen. All right. And I will also stop recording.